the dreadful menace, the one whose will is done. The haunting chill upon your neck, I am the conundrum. But now you stand before me, devoid of all dismay. Could it be, just maybe, I'll let you have your day?
Good evening. Less than 3 hours ago, here in Grenoble, General de Gaulle declared open the 10th Winter Olympic Games, the most expensive and the biggest in the history of the Olympic movement. And so the Winter Games returned to France, the country where they started, not very far away from here, at Chamonix in 1924. Now, just before we look back at the pageantry of this afternoon, it's worth seeing the city of Grenoble itself and the mountain resorts where the main events will be held, on which the French have spent the sort of money that would make any taxpayer wince. £100 million.
The weather is the only thing that can mar the 10th Winter Games now. For apart from the ice rinks, the 5 other Olympic centres are scattered high up in the Alps, up to 40 miles from Grenoble. This is the giant ski jump at Saint-Nizier, where low cloud has constantly hampered practice. 60,000 will gather here on Sunday week, the final day of the Games, to watch the world's greatest ski jumpers. The most important Frenchman during the next 12 days will be Jean-Claude Killy, the world champion, who could win all 3 gold medals. And it's here that one of the British girls might just win a medal.
Now on BBC One, Grandstand with David Coleman.
Hello, and the big event in Grandstand today, the final of the United Kingdom Professional Snooker Championship between 2 of the most attractive players in the game today.
Because Graham Taylor's had terrible problems this year. We had lots of injuries. I mean, in football you have to take the rough with the smooth, you know. If you're prepared to take the success, then you must take the knocks too. But I'm so glad for him and the players. This might be a little turning point for us.
Now, Riley got 2, but the first 3 were scored by Johnston, your new signing from Partick Thistle, £200,000 paying off immediately.
Well, that's why I'm doing the show next door, to pay off some of the money.
But he got 3 goals in 7 minutes.
7 minutes, yes. Yeah. Terrific. I'm just delighted for the team and delighted for Graham. Yeah.
So we're going to see you on the screen very shortly. In fact, live
in about an hour's time, yeah.
Good. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Well done today.
Thank you very much.
Worked out perfectly, didn't it?
Yeah.
OK, well, now we'll have a check on the league tables. We're starting at the top of the table, where Watford were last season, or up towards the top. Liverpool now have increased their lead at the top to 4 points. Hello. Today in Grandstand, the Winter Olympic Games and the 2-man bobsleigh.
In 1983. The fastest in both previous descents in the ladies' competition.
In the Winter Olympic Games this afternoon, Torvill and Dean continue their bid for gold.
Sixes and wonderful, elegant.
Not once, but twice, 3 times.
Artistic brilliance.
And the audience loved every second of it.
But outside, raging blizzards again stop the men's downhill, and there's reaction from the top Canadian. Well, it's not just the Olympic city of Sarajevo that's suffering from the severe weather. The whole of Yugoslavia and parts of Switzerland, Italy and Hungary have been affected. And it's been reported from Belgrade, at least 4 have died in blizzards in Yugoslavia, and about 10,000 people had to be rescued by troops when they were trapped in buses, trains and cars. The Olympic venue most affected by the conditions is way up the mountain on the men's downhill, which was postponed this morning for the third time. And David Vine's daily weather report has now become a regular feature of Olympic Grandstand.
Instead of getting better as everyone had hoped and forecast, Bielefeld has got worse. It hasn't been as bad as this since we came here to Yugoslavia. The snow falling heavily again or driving across horizontally. The winds at the top there at about 80 or 90 miles an hour, and the fog has come down even thicker. It's almost right the way down to the finish. Absolutely impossible conditions for any alpine racing at all. And once again, the men's Olympic downhill is off. The latest plan, and there's enough of those to fill a wardrobe with, is that it will be run on Friday. So the first race we're likely to see from here is the men's giant slalom on Tuesday. But spare a thought for these people. The soldiers have been up all night. They're doing a King Canute job, shoveling the snow off the course. As soon as they turn their backs, there's another great pile of snow right behind them. And think about the races as well. They really are getting agitated now. It's the most agonizing wait they've ever had in their ski careers. They're used to this sort of thing, but not when it's an Olympic run. They're back in the village, they're running out of books. People like Steve Podborski, by now he should be at home in Canada, sitting in front of a fire with his fiancée, hopefully looking at an Olympic gold medal on his sideboard. But he really hasn't strapped on a pair of skis like anybody else since Wednesday, and they are really getting a little bit fed up with it all, I'm sure. People like Peter Muller and Bill Johnson, they're the quieter members of the World Ski Club. They don't seem to be worrying too much. And Bill Johnson, in fact, the American who's become the favourite here, was quite happy they haven't raced today because on yet another new draw, he was drawn #1, and nobody wants to go there. So, as I say, they wait yet again, hopefully to get this Olympic men's downhill underway. And the only thing going downhill here at the moment is the BBC Alpine team, back down to the relative peace of Sarajevo for a dry out and a warm-up.
BBC One now at 5 to 11, we pay an extra visit to the Winter Olympics.
From the Winter Olympic Games, the ladies and the men's downhill, which is the most sought-after gold medal in winter sport. Won in '68 by the great Jean-Claude Killy. In '72 by Russi of Switzerland.
1:30 and he's faster. Yes, Russi is on course and is faster than Sprecher at this part of the race.
In '76 by the daring Franz Klammer, who goes again today.
Klammer going at 15. 22, the hero of Austria.
And in 1980 by another Austrian, Leonard Stock.
And Stock, who's been the sensation of the training here, could be the sensation of the run. So, which name will be inscribed on the Roll of Honour as the Olympic champion for 1984? Will Klammer be the first man ever to win the title twice, though he doesn't think much of the course?
To get a really good time, to ski very well on this course.
Next here on BBC One, Olympic Grandstand, featuring highlights of both the downhills, ice hockey, speed skating and cross-country.
Hello, it's been a busy morning at the Winter Games with both the men's and ladies' downhill races taking place. And as well in today's programme, we've speed skating, ice hockey and cross-country. The long-awaited...
Obviously must take place, and so they try tomorrow. If not, they try again the next day, and they keep going. The races have got the big problem, the organisers have got the big problem, and one bit of good news, at least the weather forecast for tomorrow is slightly better. Anything's got to be better than this.
The trials of a BBC snowman. Well, hopefully the race will now take place at 11 a.m. British time tomorrow. And programme time BBC One will be changed to take the men's downhill live, our coverage starting at 10:55.
Back to this evening, and David Coleman introduces World Cup cricket.
Good evening. On the most perfect day for playing and watching cricket, the Prudential World Cup tournament has now really taken off as a competition of major importance, with large and enthusiastic crowds enjoying a combination of the unexpected and the sheer pleasure of seeing some of the finest players in the world at their very best. The two matches we're covering tonight are England-Pakistan and the West Indies against Australia.
Here on BBC One now, it's 11 o'clock. David Coleman introduces Cup Final Grandstand.
Mighty Manchester United playing today in the FA Cup final for the fourth time in 8 years, receiving the coveted trophy in 1977. A team of thoroughbreds costing millions of pounds. And today, facing Brighton and Hove Albion, who've never reached Wembley before, whose humble record shows in their 83 years they've never won a major trophy, and who this season combine the glamour of an FA Cup final with the indignity of relegation to the second division. It's a match of remarkable contrasts, typical of this great competition, which was born as long ago as 1872, and which is now recognised and envied as the finest club tournament in the world. It's claimed the game will be watched by 400 million people, and the fact it's being played between clubs so very different in status is what's always made FA Cup matches so intriguing. In the Cup, anything is possible. Stream of calls, and I believe we've got the first caller on the phone now, Paul Newcombe. Is that right, Paul?
Yes, that's right.
Where are you from?
Dudley in the West Midlands.
And what is it you want?
I'd like to see the 4 Manchester United goals against Benfica in the 1968 Cup final.
Won by United, of course. Let's start spinning through to it. That was the year you were born, wasn't it?
Yes.
And any special significance in your choice?
Yes, I think it's their greatest achievement, and it's my birthday today.
So you're 15 today, are you?
Yes.
Oh, congratulations. You've got a very unusual birthday present.
Yes.
OK, well, the boys have found it very, very quickly indeed. Enjoy it, and Manchester United winning the European Cup against Benfica in this Wembley Stadium in 1968.
Thank you.
Folder. Godfrey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Fine. What's your choice?
My choice is for the world record long jump by Bob Beamon, Mexico 1968.
68's a popular year with the sound of it.
That's right.
Did you see it at the time?
I did, in fact, yes.
And why do you want to see it again?
Well, it's for my son Robert, who's very keen on long jump and triple jump. He wasn't born at the time, he's only 12.
I remember a comment by Lynn Davis's father after this. He said, that's not black power, that's black magic. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
It's still, of course, one of the great jumps in the history and one of the great sporting performances of all time. As this record still stands, as you well know.
Yes.
29 feet 2.5.
That's right.
It was the first jump, actually, that Bob Beamon produced, and I remember Lynn Davis told me he couldn't believe it. He hadn't jumped at all at that stage, and he kept walking back, looking down at the tape measure. It reached 28 feet, and he still saw another foot ahead of it. His reaction to that was one of total astonishment, and said, I can't compete with that.
That's right. I think that was everybody's reaction, really.
Well, I think we're OK to go, so here you are. And we're not quite ready, actually. They're still spinning through there. Ah, there I can see the reel. 68 Olympics, of course, at altitude, Godfrey, which improved performances in both field events and the sprint events, didn't they?
Yes, yes. It was certainly a year for records.
You were locked to your television in those days, were you?
I try to watch as much as I can, certainly of those sort of events.
Yeah. And did you stay up at night to watch that?
Quite a bit, yes.
Actually, the boys are having a terrible, terrible job to get through to this. Of course, Lee Evans in the 400 metres also set a world record during these games that still stands. And so too, if I remember rightly, Jim Hines in the 100 metres. It does show the effect of altitude on performances.
Yes, yeah, it certainly does.
Actually, Ralph Boston, before the game started, said to Lynn Davis, don't you frighten that man Beamon, Lynn. He'll jump right out of the pit, and he practically did. Anyway, Godfrey, here we are. We found it at last. Bob Beamon's world record long jump set at Mexico City in 1968.
Fine, thanks very much.
On the long jump runway, Bobby Beamon of the United